Hi everyone, welcome to I Have a Needle Ministries. I am back with a sermon. I just took to crying. Today's a very powerful day. It's my wife's birthday. She turned 39 for multiple times. Very beautiful, thinking about all kinds of things. It's also Memorial Day, and I am very motivated because I got in a commentary for Mark 1. I was inside of Mark chapter 1. Mark itself, the Gospel of Mark. And even though I've studied many times, this enduringword.com is where I found it. It's a very good source of straight Bible knowledge. But long story short is, even with a master's in divinity, I love how there's endless knowledge that you could just keep learning and learning. So today I was learning that Mark, obviously I knew it was one of the shorter Gospels. It's the Gospel that appeals to the Romans and the Gentiles. And that's a wonderful thing, because that's what we are. If you're a Gentile, if you're not a Jew, then you wouldn't understand some of the things in the first century. And it needed to be explained to you, because many of the things were obviously the Messiah being the manifestation of all these prophecies for hundreds of years in the book of Torah and, the Jewish Bible. But if you were a Gentile, you'd have no idea about this Messiah and everything and what made it so special. So Mark made that for people for thousands of years make sense, mean something. And today on Memorial Day, when we are celebrating the loss of men and women by the thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands in our country, probably more than 1 million if you take all the wars and you include the Civil War. But that's a lot of loss of bloodshed, and not to mention all the sacrifices that were done even for people that were wounded and lost legs and arms and fingers. And oh my gosh, people have sacrificed so much for us. And it harkens us to remember what God did for us, and that this is a Judeo-Christian country. No matter what anybody wants to hear or say, it's Judeo-Christian. The things that motivated these founding fathers to start this country, one of the greatest countries ever. And even though we're struggling now, the greatest country ever established, we are in a position to claim our country, strengthen our country, not let it fail. It's funny, under the premise of too big to fail. Is this country too big to fail? Well, the answer is no, but bottom line is we can go forward and do everything we can to make it better, to go back a little bit, to go forward. Sometimes you have to take a step or two back. So the Bible is the ultimate tool for that. So I wanted to speak about Mark, but I also wanted to speak about freedom, liberty, sacrifice, Memorial Day. It is a wonderful time to reflect. So today I was thinking a lot about God being a doer. Mark speaks about God went here and did this. God went here and did this. It's not as much in Mark about God's word. It's about doing. And, Bible is clear that faith without works is dead. James speaks about that. And we all know that. You can't earn your way to heaven. It's a gift. It's grace. We got that. But if you look at a tree and it's barren and it has no fruit, then you're going to think, what kind of tree is that? And you're certainly not going to want to eat of the tree. You're not going to want to look into the tree. Well, we are to be the fruit of the vine. And if we stay connected to God, that metaphor, that analogy, oh my gosh, it's a beautiful thing, but only if we stay connected. And so today we connect and we look at Mark describing God's deeds. And I became very emotional because I'm enduring a demonic attack over the last day or two for no reason. It was my anniversary. It was a beautiful day of rest yesterday. Today is my wife's birthday. And yet I was hearing horrible things from the devil that didn't make any sense. They made me emotional. And I had to fight it. And I did. But I tried to fight it just in words, but I had to fight it in words and deeds. And today, this is the deed. I need to lift people up. I need to be strong and show people that it's real, that you're going to be emotional. You're going to be under attack sometimes, but it's warfare and you need to fight. So today, this is my deed. This is my fighting. And I'm going to put works with the words, and, faith will have its works. And hopefully I will bring some people along with me into being better cheered up and more positive. So the way that I want you to imagine this is, Genesis speaks of all these beautiful things that God created. And he created them with his words. So obviously I've been thinking a lot lately about our words in connection with the deeds and the things I just discussed. And our words are powerful. Deeds are very important, and that's what I'm speaking about today, but they go hand in hand. If you're constantly speaking negative, oh, this won't happen, that won't happen, this won't happen, this could never happen. I've always said that the devil moves in the nevers and the evers. And I have a funny story, and then I'll go into some Bible stuff and hit the main message. The funny story happened about maybe 12 years ago. It could even be 17, 18 years ago, but early in my marriage. I was driving up to the house, and my wife and I were in a fight on the phone, and I was on my cell phone. And we were arguing, and it was probably over nothing, but the bottom line is, I said to her, "You never do anything for me." And then I heard what I said, and I started laughing. And my wife said, "What's so funny?" And I said, "Did you hear what I said? I just said that you never do anything for me." And I started laughing because this woman cooks for me, cleans for me, loves me, kisses me, hugs me. She's passionate. She protects me. She says kind things about me. She lifts me up. She takes care of me when I'm sick. She works hard at work. She puts in countless hours. She takes care of my babies. And I could go on and on and on and on. But I said she never does anything. See, devil works in the nevers and evers. God is a wonderful God, but he's a logical God. And those nevers and evers are illogical. And God is logical. He is truth. He is logic. He is real. He's tangible. You can grab him. You can hug him. He's there for you if you're down. So that story there where I started laughing in the middle of a fight, and of course the fight was over because there was nothing to fight with. I realized how stupid I was. I went inside. I hugged my wife. I kissed her and probably gave her a foot massage knowing her. But the point of it was so stupid to say, "You never do anything for me." So let's go to modern times. I'm struggling. I'm fighting for myself in the last couple of days. It's a great weekend. I don't do anything to bring her down, but she's speaking powerful things over me. She told me yesterday, the third day that we celebrated our anniversary, which is funny because we celebrated all day on the 26th until 1800. And my daughter told me, "Today's the 26th. And I said, "No, dear, it's the 27th. It's our anniversary." And my daughter goes, "No, I just went to school all day. I know it's the 26th. And I started laughing, and I said, "Text your mother that today is not our anniversary." And we laughed about it, and we celebrated our anniversary another day and another day. So she said to me yesterday that I'm all any woman could ever want. I'm a dream come true for a husband. And she meant it from her heart. And I'm in the other room thinking, all any woman could ever want and dream of. Like, what? Me? So I took it and I accepted it, and it was wonderful, and it lifted me up. And that's what she does. That's what makes her a great wife. I needed it really bad, but I still was lurking around and muddling around and scuttling. And today I decided I was going to be a doer. I was going to be a mover. And I started speaking powerful words. But then I matched the words with the actions. Okay? Faith plus works. Faith plus works. You can't just be a vine and swing and swing. As spring comes, you have to pop open and keep seeking the sun and keep seeking the sun and keep seeking the sun. And then eventually you have these blooming flowers. Kind of like these rose bushes over my shoulder. These are the least of the rose bushes on my property, but they're beautiful. They're tall and they're kind of barren at the bottom. They're beautiful at the top. I have rose bushes that lay out like a quilt or a blanket. Gorgeous ones. But this was a better position. But you can at least see through the illustration. If that didn't blossom and they were just buds, we'd say, yeah, that's life. That's living. It's still living. I guess it's still living. But we wouldn't see any fruit. So God gives us all these things to do. Now, here's where the evers and the nevers and the craziness come in our words. Limit things, okay? We want to use our words and then have God inspire them, because Luke 1:37 says, with God, nothing is impossible. Okay? Now, there's many, many, many things, but I like the Luke 1:37 because we can't do anything of our own volition. We'll succeed, we'll fail, we'll succeed, we'll fail. What are we going to be, a 78? But if we want to be an 88, a B+, or we want to be a 98, an A, and a solid A, almost an A+, and we want to succeed and have people want what we want and blossom and bloom like those roses, then we need to speak the words, and then we need to act them out. And with God, we can do all kinds of things, wonderful things that are seemingly impossible. Now, let me give you the illustration of what I'm yapping about and how we limit, okay? And how ridiculously foolish we are, okay? So say we have someone in our family who doesn't know God and they're living crazy and they're drinking, or maybe they have a drinking problem or a drug problem, or let's say, for example, they're a womanizer or they're cheating on their husband or whatever it is, and they're blind and we know that they don't know the word and they're lost, okay? How many, or our husband or wife, and maybe they're stubborn and they don't know the Lord, and we say the following words: oh, they're never going to know God. They're too stubborn. That's never going to happen. Oh my gosh. How foolish is that? And let me explain how. The other night I was looking at Polaris, which is seen as our northern star. To me, it was never my favorite star, but because it virtually stays in the same place all night as the entire world circles around it and moves clockwise around it. And you go out and see the nighttime sky at 11, and then you go at 1 o'clock, and Ursa Major, or the Big Dipper, is rotating around it and pointing to Polaris. But Polaris stays the same. So if you were lost at night, you could see Polaris and you could navigate your way north. That's the North Star. But the point of it is, that's remarkable what God did for us. But dig deeper. It's always more beautiful and amazing when you think about this, okay? Listen to these mind-boggling factual statistics. When I saw Polaris last night, I was seeing the light from 323 years ago. 1700, that light shined. And all of a sudden, it came forward and we were able to see a wonderful shining light going forward that people at 1700, before this country was a country, we were just a group of colonies. Excuse me. We weren't even a nation yet. Benjamin Franklin wasn't born yet. Johann Sebastian Bach was a teenager. That's when Polaris's light shined. And I saw it last night. Okay, you want to understand what I'm saying? I'll give you the details, and it's mind-boggling. It took 323 years for that light to see into my eyes last night, for me to see that light, for it to travel here and be evident for me to see it, because it's 323 light years away. Now that sounds unbelievable. And imagine if that was us driving a car 60 miles an hour, okay? Nope. Imagine 600 miles an hour. Imagine the light traveled 6,000 miles an hour. No human has traveled at that except for space exploration. What about 60,000 miles an hour? What about 600,000 miles an hour? What about 6 million miles an hour? 60 million miles an hour? Nope. Multiply again by 10 and it's still short. That light that I saw last night after 323 major light years that I saw traveled at 670 million miles an hour. And I just saw it after 323 years. Yet we say God could never change that person. They're too stubborn. They'll never seek the Lord. They're addicted to drugs. They're addicted to wine. They're addicted to women. They're addicted to anger. They're hurt. They're wounded. Are you kidding me? So God's hands are on the outside of everything. We can acknowledge that. That was creation. If you believe God was a creator, even if you're not a Christian, you probably believe that God created everything, because science is starting to prove it, one fact after another. And of course, you know, that's my expertise, and that's for another day. But if in fact God created everything, then that means he's on the outside of everything and he created it. Imagine you're sitting there creating a science project in front of you. That's the earth. And when you go forward and you see all the things that are, that at 670 million miles an hour, it still took 323 years for that light to touch my eyes last night, for me to see a light that shined in 1700. Yet we're saying that God can't change one stubborn person on this finite earth. He stopped storms with his word. He caused storms. He caused thousands of pigs called Legion to come out of this man and jump into the sea. We see this creation. We can't fathom this creation. And Polaris is 323 light years away. But there are stars so much further than that, and all of them are light years away at 670 million miles an hour. Yet we limit God and say, oh, this person will never change. Luke 1:37 says different. When you see that, it says, nothing is impossible for God. And if you believe that, then we have to match our words with our actions and stop saying crazy stuff. I was listening to Casting Crowns, East to the West. And he says, you know just how far the East is to the West. Now imagine that statement with 670 million miles an hour, the speed, and light years away, and the size that we can't even conceive, East to the West. And then he says, and I imagine the hands that created all of it, galaxies and just extraordinary space and billions of miles away like Pluto. Can you fathom outside of that and outside of that and outside of that and outside of that? And we're limiting this God that he can't change one stubborn man in Pennsylvania in 2023. It's foolishness. It's stupid. And in that song, he knows just how far the East is to the West. One scarred hand to another. So it all comes back to the cross. And he did that. He died for us and took all that pain in his hands and his feet and literally gasping for air and dying while drowning in his own water in his lungs and surging for air. And then he passed and went to the depths of hell, and he ascended to heaven at the right hand of God and came back and proved himself and sat here and gave us all these wonderful scenarios. Stop limiting God. Stop with the crazy words that this can't happen and this can't happen and never and ever. And seek him and love him and thank him and appreciate the size and the grandeur and the stature on this 2023 Memorial Day for America. Take your words and marry them together with your deeds. And then faith without works will never happen, and the works will occur, and the specific prayer of the righteous man will occur, and you will know that God is real, and it'll bring glory to God because you prayed for Judy, you prayed for Jody, you prayed for Brenda, you prayed for Matthew or John, and all these things happen because of specific prayer. It couldn't have been coincidence. If you see just how far the East is to the West, and it's inconceivably huge, gargantuan, a size that we cannot even conceive. Picking one reference point of Polaris, 323 light years away, and a light year occurs in 670 million miles an hour it takes for light to travel. The sun comes here and latches onto our earth and makes our earth beautiful and makes these things grow behind me in 8 minutes from 93 million miles away. Our sun is a fraction of the size of other suns. And that is so amazing if you just think about it. But here's why it's the most beautiful. When we are illuminated, we are beautiful. I can spike my hair. I can try to be handsome. My wife can do her poof. She can have her pretty face. My daughters can be gorgeous. Without light, you can't even see them. None of our beautiful planets that I marvel over and I look at with a telescope or I look at with binoculars, Venus has been very prominent in the evening sky, in the western sky as the sun is setting. And Venus, we couldn't even see. We don't actually see Venus without the sun shining on it. What we see is the sun's light hitting it. Without the sun's light, we can't see it. It's void, it's filthy, it's dark, it's disgusting. It doesn't create any of its own light. And that's us. Think how bad human beings are with mass murders and school shootings and pedophilia and filth and lust and greed and dictators and communism and fascism and liberalism and all the things that are dragging down ultimate absolute truth. When we go forward and we illuminate these things, we can see evil for what it is. And it makes good and righteousness even more beautiful. But without light, everything is void. Some people feel that hell which is not described very much in the Bible, is an absence of light. Eternity without light. Well, that's black, and that's filthy, and that's nothing, and it doesn't exist because you can't see it. And not seeing God or having God or any light the rest of eternity is some people's definition of hell. It certainly is my definition, because I love to see my grandkids, my beautiful daughter Alicia. I love to see amazing growth in Tyler, my son-in-law. If I couldn't see any of these things, I would never grow. I would never feel good. Everything would be void. I would be in total vacuum. But I can. And how can I see them? With God's light shining, with the ultimate light of the sun. Here, the sun is the best possible metaphor, where we see this light, this sun, which is Jesus. And when Jesus hits our life, we shine like never before. My daughter Alicia worked hard, did amazing things, was achieving things, went in the army, graduated, got very good grades. And I told her, if you match Jesus with that hard work ethic and that clean living, you're going to be unbeatable. And she has, and she is. I love to see God work in people's lives. So people, this was a long one, but I hope that these illustrations I gave you, these powerful scenarios of how big God is, and that he's as big from the east to the west, from one scarred hand to another, can help you grab that illumination and be doers of the word, not just hearers of the word, like Pastor Jim said at Biker Church. Go forward and be doers of the word and show people that light that took 323 years to shine from Polaris until I saw it last night. Try and wrap your mind around that. And remember, the devil operates in the evers and the nevers, and God is the ultimate light to shine so that you can see the difference. You have a blessed Memorial Day. Take care of one another.